Major injury news comes for a team that really didn't need any more bad news. SGA does it again, and two teams, the Knicks and Grizzlies, are playing a ton of crunch time minutes, but moving in polar opposite directions. That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Brunson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. He's our man of 1,000 podcast. It's Matt Moore.
It's Tuesday, March 4th, and Nico Harrison somehow still employed.
And from the Locked On Bulls podcast, he's our Prince of Petty. It's Hayes. Hayes, how you doing?
Good. Check in from earlier in the season when my son said he didn't want to be a Bulls fan anymore. He came to me last night and said, "We're going to the last Bulls game in person, right?" I said, "Yes, son. Thank you." He's back in.
Back in.
It's almost over. It's okay. All right. Well, it is over, unfortunately, for one of the stars of the Dallas Mavericks. Earlier today, ESPN's Shams Charania broke the news that Kyrie Irving will miss the remainder of the season after tearing his ACL in Monday night's game against the Sacramento Kings. Matt, how disappointing is this for a Mavs fan base that was already reeling from losing Luka Doncic?
I mean, it just feels like insult to injury, right? I think... or injury to insult, I suppose. I think they're already so down and already like nobody wanted to go to these games. Nobody cared if they made the playoffs. Nobody cared if they competed. Like the fan base has already like turned. Like they're not going to get over the Luka thing. It's going to be years for them to get over the Luka thing. Years. And with all that, I just don't know. Are they sad about Kyrie? Yes. Am I sad about Kyrie? For sure. Like he was playing great this season. Like it sucks to have anybody suffer that kind of an injury. So that's a bummer. But I don't necessarily know that this is just like another, like, great, of course, cool. That's how the Mavs fans, I think, have to be feeling.
Yeah, I mean, this Nico Harrison is doomed and cursed this franchise. That's what this feels like. It's like, how can things get much worse? Like, you trade for AD. AD has a pretty good first game. He gets injured in that first game. Just everything that's happened since then. Like, prayers up to Kyrie. Tearing your ACL, especially, this later into the later part of your career, it sucks. He should be able to make a recovery, but it just sucks for the Mavs fans overall. Like, on top of Kyrie, of course, feel for him, but like, what the Mavs fans have been through in the last 30 days is crazy.
So the news that he'll be out for the season broke about an hour before we taped, but we do have some reaction from Locked On Mavericks right after the injury, and I went back to check if the reaction would still apply, and, well, you judge for yourself.
Mavericks season, as we know it, is over. The whole, like, all right, we'll wait until they get healthy, the Thursday, the March 6th date, all that. I mean, if Kyrie is going to miss weeks, which a hyperextension, some kind of, the Mavs are calling it a left knee sprain, if that's what it is, then there's a glimmer of hope that they come back with like 2 games left in the season, right? And we get 2 games of Kyrie, AD, Lively, Gafford, Caleb Martin, PJ Washington, whoever else is going to be out for the rest of the season, right? Jaden Hardy just went out too in this game. I think the Mavs cut their losses. And they do all that. They move forward because now you have an opportunity to improve your pick here, and to get get a better asset for the offseason. They're going to go big fish hunting and do all that kind of stuff this offseason. But man, like the season is just done now with that injury.
All right, so they knew even if they got Kyrie back for a few games that this season, in their opinion, was over. So I guess the follow-up question to that is, what do they do about Anthony Davis and some of these other bigs that they're waiting on news for their return, but particularly Anthony Davis? Should they just shut him down for the rest of the season, Hayes, and then just really focus on improving that draft pick and improving this team in the offseason?
Yeah, it should all be about improving that draft pick. Luckily, they do own their own first round pick this year outright. We've seen it before, a couple of years ago, in which they made the right decision down the stretch of a difficult season to maintain that draft pick, and I expect them to do it again this year. That's what everything is built around at this point, especially in a deep draft like this. If you can add a lottery pick to this team, who knows, especially if we get the right guy. But yeah, shutting down Anthony Davis, shutting down anybody really at this point just makes the most sense. And just, hoping that the Phoenix Suns come and take that final 10th spot in the Western Conference.
Yeah, you got to bail. You just got to bail on the entire season. Shut everybody down. There's no reason to play. Don't bring Lively back. You can bring Gaffer back if you want to showcase him for trades this summer. Look, I think if most people were running the Mavericks, if they took over from Nico Harrison, if Nico Harrison decided to go on a Mamba journey or something, then I think that the answer would probably be like, you should start over. Like, Kyrie's going to be out a year. Like, you lost, like, this isn't just this year. You tore his AC, like, next year's done too. The whole thing is off the rails. It's already over. That's it. You think you're going to have Anthony Davis at this level in 2 years? Do you think that? You're not. It's already done. You have destroyed the franchise. And the only thing to do now is to kind of build back up. But I will ask this question. If they miss the playoffs and they win the lottery, what are you going to think?
Hayes?
If they miss the playoffs,
imagine
and win
that
the lottery,
card after everything, after how weird this trade has been. Like, look, I do not enjoy peddling this conspiracy nonsense, but this thing makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be like the when the Pelicans traded Anthony Davis and they got Zion that same summer. So put on your conspiracy theory hats.
Well, conspiracy theory, or it would make me question if there really are basketball gods or not. We talk a lot about the basketball gods. I would start to question my faith a little bit. Here's one more question on this. In a follow-up tweet, Shams wrote this: prior to Monday, Irving averaged 39.3 minutes over his last 10 games, a stretch that began right before the Luka Doncic-Anthony Davis trade, and he played most in the NBA from February 4th to March 2nd. Irving had also played 37 or more minutes in 9 of his last 10 games entering Monday, and that's what Shams wrote, and that's not to speak of the minutes that he was piling up while Luka was injured, while he was still a member of the Mavericks. Matt, did the Mavericks make a mistake overloading Kyrie Irving?
Yeah, but okay. No, I'll say no. The problem was more of, this was like one of the mistakes of like adding Kyrie. Like, Kyrie's got an injury history on top of it, on top of all of his other nonsense. Like, something was going to derail this. And so it's not surprising to me that this has occurred. Like, this is what happens when you overload. Like, he's 32 and you try to overload a 32-year-old with a lot of miles on him. Like, what did you think was going to happen? I just don't know. So much of this entire thing just boils down to, what did you think was going to happen? And it's Kyrie, ACLs can tear, they can not tear. I don't know that this was directly related. It's hard to prove that from a medical science standpoint, I think. But I don't think that the decision-making was sound anyway from any part of this.
None of the decisions that have been made here have been smart about any of this. So no, I mean, it all comes back to, I do believe wholeheartedly in karma, and I don't know what happened there in Dallas, but it is what it is.
I lied. I have one more question, because I asked this question actually in the last episode with the injury news about Domantas Sabonis in Sacramento, and ironically or coincidentally, this injury happened in a game against the Sacramento Kings. But I asked this question yesterday: what team in the right outside of the play-in race in the Western Conference is most primed to take advantage of that opportunity? Well, now there are two opportunities, and the Dallas Mavericks are even closer to being out of the play-in, at least a game behind Sacramento and Minnesota. So Phoenix, Portland, San Antonio, they're right there in the hunt. I'll ask it one more time. Which of those teams do you think can most take advantage of this opportunity? Hayes.
Man, if Wemby was healthy, I'd pick the Spurs here. This is right. Like, just shoot me. I'll say the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, it's like, pass, man. Phoenix. Yeah, like, Doug, I know you want to go for the Blazers. It would be very bad for them to make the playoffs, Doug. Like, it would be very bad.
I take that back. I'm going to pick the Portland Trailblazers because if they make the playoffs, we get their pick.
Well, that's selfish of you. And yeah, I think I'm completely getting off of the LA Clipper bandwagon. It's on fire. It's rolling down the hill right now, and I'm going to try to catch the Portland Trailblazers. I know they shouldn't, but I think whether it's rebuilding at the deadline, not trading away certain players, the Portland Trailblazers, their identity is not doing the thing that you think they should do for their long-term health. So that's why I totally buy them as making this little run to the play-in.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing that would be really funny, imagine if the Heat slide into the play and they lose out, and then the Blazers make it in. Oof. Joe Cronin gets the last laugh.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, there was some good news and good play last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he dropped another 50-point game in a win over the Rockets, another 50-burger. That has both implications for the Oklahoma City and implications for people who listen to this podcast, because you're going to get a deal. That's coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. I just mentioned that deal. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, SGA swooshes, and you save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player does what SGA did last night, drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon until midnight. Here's how to take advantage of the deal. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. If you're staying up late watching highlights or just need a midnight snack, you can use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Need a quick and easy lunch the next day? Dash Pass gets you your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and get ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after that 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Thank you, Shai. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander delivered a stellar performance, scoring 51 points to lead the Oklahoma City Thunder to a 137-128 victory over the Houston Rockets. Let's head to Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder for his continued awe at what he's witnessing from what looks to be a future MVP.
Having 0 50-point games to 4 in the last month. That's the kind of stuff. When you watch Shai and the way that he hits these tough shots in the mid-range, the way that he slithers his way to the rim, the way that he now knocks down catch-and-shoot threes and step-back threes and gets it going from beyond the arc. It's impossible not to see an all-time scorer. It's impossible not to see a guy who those who play the results will wait to go ahead and crown him as this, but it's going to be true. He's going to be someone who can lead a team, lead a franchise, and lead a roster, as he did a year ago. So I just think that another 50-point game, you sit back and you look at it, and at the end of the day, you say, when you have Shai, you have a chance to win a championship.
30 field goal attempts, 60% from the field for SGA. Only 10 free throw attempts, somewhat more ethical. But Hayes, do you take anything away from this 50-point game because the Rockets were ailing? They had several guys on the bench. Did it give you any more information about what we can expect from SGA in the postseason?
I won't say necessarily gave us any more information, but I think, you got to look at a 50-point performance. Unless it's against the Hawks or the Wizards, 50 points is 50 points. It's always going to be special, right? So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a special player. Love seeing him when he gets in the rhythm and what he's able to do out there, and it's just fun watching Shai play basketball. He is going to win the MVP this year. I firmly believe he's going to win the MVP this year, and it's going to be deservedly so. He's an amazing player, doing amazing things. We just got to see postseason. We got to get into the finals this year is where I'm getting at with the Thunder.
NBA 50 for my Jersey Mikes. Thank you, Shai. No Dylan Brooks. You got no Alperen Şengün, and you got no Amen Thompson. look, there's injuries in every game. That's how the NBA is now. Like everybody's hurt all the time. So you kind of got to just judge these guys based off of it. I think it's a testament to Shai's ability to absolutely just wield scoring in an incredible way. And he had 7 dimes in this one. And if you want more context, like how about 51 points? Take away the free throws, which everyone complains about. He got to the line for 10 free throw attempts. Take those away, and he still got 41 on 30 attempts, 18 of 30 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3. It's the efficiency that matters here, is that Shai is not a chucker. Shai is efficient, and he is leading a team that is quickly rising up to be a top 5 offense as well as an elite defense. There's some interesting stuff, I think, in this game from a matchup perspective that we'll have to revisit if these two teams meet later on. But I think overall, like, look, just another in a long series of high marks for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in an incredible season.
Poor Reed Shepherd, the Rockets rookie. He sets a career high for himself, 25 points, but I think he gave up 40 points. So, yeah. But look, that's a tough assignment for a rookie. All right, let's move on to some teams that have needed crunch time minutes. Oklahoma City hasn't needed those opportunities very much this season because they've been blowing teams out. But 2 teams have. The Memphis Grizzlies and the New York Knicks are addicted right now to playing close games, but one team is rising to the occasion and one can't make the final play. Let's start with the clutch New York Knicks, who have been getting a lot of those crunch time minutes and crunch time deliveries from Jalen Brunson. That was the topic of the latest episode of Locked On Knicks. Let's take a listen to that.
Every single time the Knicks need him to make a key shot down the stretch of a game, he makes it. He came through with late buckets in the fourth, buckets in the overtime when the Knicks really needed it. He had the one that put them ahead, and then he had, with all the attention that he gathered, managed to get it to Josh Hart for what ended up kind of being the dagger that put the Knicks up a couple possessions late, and hit him for a layup when the entire 5-man defense collapsed on him because of the amount of attention that he requires at this point. I'm going to go so far as to say, at this particular snapshot in time, he is like the clutchest man in sports right now. I mean, it's just crazy. This guy, if he doesn't win the clutch player of the year this year in the NBA, like, first off, kind of a silly award if I'm being for real, but like, if he doesn't win it, then we know that the awards are rigged or something, because there's absolutely no way he should not be winning that award this year.
All right, what do you think, Matt? Wait a minute, is the clutch player of the year, is that a silly award? I'm not sure that's silly. I like that idea, but also, is Jalen Brunson the most clutch player this season?
I think it's a little silly because of the way that you have to, like, you're asking voters to determine it, and the only way to really do it is to go by the numbers. And I think that just kind of takes some of the oomph out of it. Like, here's a good example. Okay, Jalen now leads in all players amongst total scoring in the clutch, 5 points within the last 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is a bit much, so I look at the last 2 minutes in the 5-point game, 2-possession game, last 2 minutes. Since January 15th, Jalen Brunson has 49 points. And the Knicks are 9-0. They are plus 37. He's shooting 68% from the field and 50% from 3 in the clutch in these situations. It's been an insane run. This was Trae Young's. Like, Trae Young was going to win this award. Remember that Jazz buzzer beater from half court? Remember all of the monster shots? Like, Trae Young had this award. Nikola Jokic was the leader for half the season. But what Jalen's done, and I will kind of note this, you want to know why Jalen's doing this? Because the Knicks are in games they shouldn't be. Like, these should not be clutch games. And yet every single night, because the Knicks are not good enough, especially on defense, they find themselves having to claw out of a hole versus inferior squads, which Brunson then absolutely annihilates. That's how he's going to win clutch player of the year. But he can't argue with the numbers, Hayes.
Yeah, the numbers are the numbers. Jalen Brunson is a great clutch player, and we need to start preparing ourselves every year for Jalen Brunson to just go on runs at the end of the year, especially if he does it again this year. But what he does in the clutch and how they're able to go to him, and he always delivers more times than not. It's just great to watch. Jalen Brunson is one of those players that when he gets in that rhythm, you start feeling it early, like it's going to be another Jalen Brunson night, and then he delivers every single time. So whether the Knicks are in games that they're supposed to be or not, like, Jalen Brunson is just having a great season as far as the clutch. And yeah, the only other player that really could come close to getting that clutch player of the year award probably would be Trae Young. And I'd rather bet on the clutch on Jalen than the clutch than Trae.
Okay, you heard all those numbers there, Hayes, but game for your life. Who are you taking? You taking Brunson? You taking anyone else in the NBA right now? Game for your life. Clutch, 3 minutes to go. You're down 4. Who are you taking?
Is it a 5-on-5 or a 1-on-1 game?
No, 5-on-5. Game situation. Game for your life.
Man,
Steph?
yeah, I'll probably take Jalen.
Take Jalen. Jalen over Steph. Matt, what do you think?
Neither. You're taking De'Aaron Fox. You're taking Nikola Jokic. Those guys have been consistently the best players.
DeMar DeRozan.
DeRozan's another good one.
Yeah.
You can have any of those kind of guys. I worry about DeRozan on a number of things, but he gets it done. It's got to be one of those 3. Everybody else can head on back.
I believe De'Aaron Fox was one of the players that sunk the other team that we want to talk about here, the Memphis Grizzlies, who have not been doing great in crunch time. Coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, we're going to hear from Locked On Grizzlies. There's a little bit of finger pointing going on right now with the Memphis Grizzlies sliding back in the Western Conference standings. That, plus, I asked Matt and Hayes, what are we not talking about? What should we be talking about more as it relates to the performances that we're seeing as we get closer and closer to the NBA playoffs? We'll have all of that ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by OpenPhone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. A personal phone becomes a business phone, and suddenly customer calls are coming in day and night. And as a team grows, managing everything with just one number, it's impossible. That's where OpenPhone comes in, the #1 business phone system designed to keep work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with a business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on a phone or a computer, and it integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, providing a rundown of calls and action items the second that they end. If you missed a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to customers, ensuring no opportunity is missed. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off the first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off 6 months. OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA, and existing numbers with another service, they can be ported over at no extra charge. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen of the day. Let's keep our clutch conversation going, and let's move to the Memphis Grizzlies, who have lost 3 games in a row, all in the last 3 seconds of the game. Here's Locked On Grizzlies with their take on who is responsible and what's going on in Memphis.
They look defeated. They look deflated. And I want to say they look that way after this loss to the Atlanta Hawks, the 3rd such loss. They're finding different ways to do it, but it's single possession losses at the buzzer. It feels like the low point of the season. This loss, for me, was about body language. And you see it first and foremost, not in John Morant, who DeMichael and I have talked about with Ja in the past, looking disinterested on the bench. That's not what I noticed. What I noticed was the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, Taylor Jenkins, and his body language. And how whenever you're able to become a meme as a coach for looking unsure or looking frustrated or lost, that's not a good thing, because it makes it appear, even if it's not the case, even if it's not true, it makes it seem like you are at a loss for what to do. And once you've reached that point as a coach, you risk losing your players.
Okay, Matt, what do you think? Is Taylor Jenkins on the hot seat if the Memphis Grizzlies come up short this season, or should more pressure be on Ja Morant to deliver the goods in the postseason?
What are we doing? What are we doing here? Look, they're 6-6 in games decided by 3 points or less. They're 13-15 in clutch time games. They're fine. This is noise. It's random. Are the Atlanta Hawks better than the Memphis Grizzlies? Hayes, are the Atlanta Hawks better than the Grizzlies?
No.
So what are we doing here? If this happens in December, no one cares. No one cares. The Grizzlies are having a bad dip at the wrong moment, because as the season goes on, we over-index this late season stuff. This is a nonsense time in the NBA. March is a useless month in the NBA. It shouldn't exist in the NBA calendar. We should be into the playoffs. None of these games are real. So overreacting to this and talking about Taylor Jenkins' response. Don't turn the ball over with 3 seconds left. What are we doing? Taylor Jenkins' body language is making him turn the ball over to the Atlanta Hawks? Come on. Everyone settle down. Memphis is not as bad as you're never as bad as you are at your worst moment or as good as you are at your best. And the Lakers and the Grizzlies are 2 excellent examples of that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a bit of an overreaction. Like the Memphis Grizzlies have gone through some struggles. Another in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. This happens. It's March, right? I think let's wait and see how they. Now, I do think that there could be something that the Memphis Grizzlies look to maybe do something drastic if they become an early exit in the playoffs or something like that. But like this is a team that's still dealt with a lot of injuries over the course of this year. You're integrating Ja Morant back into the rotation, and like it is what it is. Like you're gonna go through some ups and downs like this. It's March. Everybody has a little period at the end of February, beginning of March, where they're just trying to stay healthy and get to the playoffs. Let's wait till the playoffs before we try to make a decision on what the Memphis Grizzlies are going to do this season.
Lousy Smarch basketball. All right, let's look under the couch cushions for some hidden NBA nuggets. It's time for a segment we're calling Can We Talk About? Before we get to Matt and Hayes with some of the things that they think we should be talking more about in the NBA, Locked On Pacers would like us all to talk about Tyrese Haliburton's turnaround more, please and thank you.
He's confident. He's getting 2 feet in the paint. And I think now he's finally realizing that, you know, I don't have to justify anybody's thoughts that I'm bad. I could just prove them wrong. And now, I mean, he had 17 against Chicago, 19 against Miami. He doesn't look like much on first glance, but then you see that they were big shots. First guy in NBA history, 500 assists without getting 100 turnovers. It's amazing, but you come to watch Tyrese Haliburton, that's what you come to expect. My thing is the points. He's starting to take over games. In that LA game recently, he had 29. After that, he had 19. Then he had 33 against Toronto. The hammy's back to normal. I think it's a mind thing. I think it's a mind and body thing. And I think now his mind has caught up to his body.
Matt, I know you wanted us all to talk about that more as well. So any comments on that? Plus, what's something you think we should be talking more about when it comes to our beloved game?
Yeah, so Hallie is 6th right now this season. There's about 55 players that have shot 200 jump shots off the dribble, right? Pretty important shots, high leverage shots. Hallie is 6th in effective field goal percentage. Everyone buried this guy, buried him. Oh, everyone talked about him. He wasn't all NBA. Everybody was so mad at him for ruining the Knicks coronation party last year. Tyrese Haliburton is an all-NBA level player. He's one of the best passers in the NBA. He's taking over games with scoring is a very important thing because I think Hallie spends too much time trying to facilitate and let the game come to him and help his teammates out and not enough time being the head of the snake and leading them. He's learning that. And that to me is really exciting. Cannot wait to see more of Hallie in the playoffs. A couple other guys I want to shout out. Chris Dunn's defense has been absolutely elite this season. He's top 3 in EPM defensively. You watch him night to night. He is an absolute menace. Santi Aldama does not get enough credit for being 6 man on a team that apparently everyone thinks sucks in the Memphis Grizzlies, but he's been really awesome. He's been a playmaker, a finisher, and a shooter. Anthony Edwards' 3-point rate is so high. I do not think teams are ready for what he's going to do in the playoffs with this amount of 3-point shooting. Walker Kessler, been the best player on the Jazz. We talked about this on the West squad show yesterday. It's going to come out, I think, Wednesday. It's phenomenal. Like Walker Kessler is really good and is no longer a trade chip for the Lakers to try and snatch away. One more is I did want to talk about the Washington I can't believe I'm going to say this. Hayes, since February 1st, we are a month. The last month, the Washington Wizards are 14th on defense. Wow. No kidding. There are a little bit of signs that the Washington Wizards have something going. Just like a little bit. Most nights are going to get blown out like they did last night. But like with some of the young talent, there's a little bit of sign that the Washington Wizards have kind of turned the corner and no one's going to talk about it. Oh, one more thing. I was going to think. Oh, Dean Wade.
Well, they traded for some adults, right? They got Marcus Smart in there. They got Chris Middleton in there. So, yeah, I think you would expect them to improve a little bit. Hayes, what are some things that we're not talking enough about in the NBA?
I just got one thing. The Golden State Warriors are legit. Over the last 10 games, they've been 3rd in net rating, 3rd in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating, They've been playing so good on both sides of the ball right now, and the chemistry that we see between Draymond, Steph, and Jimmy is something that I think for at least this season can really be legit. You look at how they went from being outside of the play-in before the trade deadline to now what they're up to 6th in that Western Conference. This is a Golden State Warriors team that we'll see what happens in the offseason. We'll see what they look like this season. But I think for the remainder part, when you have a motivated Jimmy Butler, Draymond's locked in, Steph's playing the way that he is, look out for this team to upset some teams in the playoffs this year, I feel.
Warriors play the Knicks tonight on TNT. Should be an interesting game. Don't have an injury report yet for Golden State. Obviously, Jimmy Butler nursing a little bit of an injury. Steph Curry, Pajemski, I think, tweaked something against the Hornets last night. Matt, did you have something on the Warriors?
Oh, just what if we get a Lakers-Warriors conference finals? And with a Lakers-Celtics NBA finals? That'd be pretty good for the ratings, wouldn't it?
I think it would be good basketball too. I think it would be interesting basketball because you don't think so? Why?
I don't. I would rather see that. I would rather see Cavs Thunder, man. Like those teams have been great all year. Those teams have been awesome. I don't like it when these teams go on hot runs that are pretty much unsustainable and they wind up somewhere that they haven't earned. I want the Cavs and the Thunder in the finals.
Let's talk about what we'll stay on the Warriors for just one more second. Let's talk about what Steve Kerr, head coach of the Warriors, would like us all to talk more about. And that's traveling. And he'd like the NBA to do something about it as well. Here was one of his quotes after the game. I don't understand why we are not teaching our officials to call travel in this league, Kerr said. They do a great job and work their tails off and communicate well, but I see 5 or 6 travels a game that are not called. He also admitted that his team is as guilty as anyone. Matt, very quickly, in terms of issues with the on-floor product, where does the proliferation of traveling rank for you?
I was going to ask you how much time we have. I'll just say this. How about we fix illegal screening, especially starting with the Golden State Warriors first? It's an epidemic, and the NBA has got to address it. Illegal screening is out of control in this league. That's the number one thing we need to fix, and it needs to start with the Golden State Warriors.
Hip check. Hayes, what do you think?
No, I agree. Illegal screening does need to be fixed along the league. I'm right along with Matt on that one. Because it's a terrible part of the game, and it's not enjoyable to watch either.
Is traveling a problem? I mean, do you think traveling, where does that rank for you in terms of the on-court problems?
I think I've become desensitive to traveling just because it happens on like 85%, if not 90% of the plays out there. I think I've just become desensitized to it at this point.
Who cares? Nobody is like, oh man, like, well, some people are, but those people are like the worst people you know. If you're the person that is like, I just hate the NBA because they travel too much, just know nobody wants to hang out with you at parties.
Back to, since we're right here at the end of the show, back to the Wizards for just one second. On Locked On Hornets today, I said I commended the Wizards and the Utah Jazz for quiet quitting, and I excoriated the Hornets for loud quitting. That was the problem. They've been losing by too much. They're loud quitting. They're going around the office belching, microwaving fish, sniffing people in a weird way. Yeah, it's just, I like when teams quiet quit, and that's what the Wizards and the Jazz seem to be doing. I don't know if that's what the Bulls are doing. Are the Bulls quiet quitting, Hayes, or are they loud quitting?
I think you can say quiet quitting when somebody sprains a thumb and they're expected to be out for a week. That's a little bit quiet quitting to me. So.
Yeah, there you go. All right. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Don't quiet quit us. Don't quit us at all. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. Thank you to Matt and Hayes for their expertise today and every day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.